welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're kicking things off with a fascinating paradox. We have this hero, famous for pure strength, monster slaying, but maybe his most tragic win came from a whisper, not his club.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, today we're doing a deep dive into the legendary Roman hero Hercules. And we're focusing specifically on one of his, well, most infamous and really tragic labors, getting that girdle from Hippolyta, Queen of the Amazons.
Right. And our mission here is to unpack this key myth, look at the surprising details, and then maybe zoom out a bit, see how Hercules became this huge cultural icon, from ancient Rome right up to today.
Exactly. We want to pull out the most important bits from all sorts of sources, ancient writings, myths, historical takes, and give you a shortcut to really understanding the surprising stuff about Hercules and his legacy, hopefully with a bit of humor thrown in.
Okay.
We'll be digging into some rich mythological accounts, looking at how the Romans adapted him, how they worshipped him, and Hippolyta's own story, of course, plus the divine trickery that really defined this particular labor.
You really see how even the strongest guy can be messed with by, forces he can't just punch.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the man himself, Hercules. We picture the muscles, the Greek hero. But you mentioned the Roman Hercules is different. How does that connection work? What makes the Roman version stand out?
Well, the name Hercules itself is the Roman version of the Greek Heracles. That's the first thing. But what's really insightful, I think, is how the Romans didn't just copy-paste. They adapted him. His look, his stories. They tweaked them to fit Roman values. He became this multi-layered figure, strength, but also adventure, wisdom. Later, artists and writers could pick and choose which part of Hercules they wanted to show. He really fit that Roman idea of virtus, courage, duty character.
Okay, so more than just a strong man. And his troubles started young, didn't they? Thanks to Juno.
Oh, right from the start. Juno, Jupiter's wife. She was his constant enemy, plotted against him before he was even born. She sent witches to stop his birth, though they got tricked, luckily.
Shiz.
Yeah. And then she sent snakes into his cradle to kill him. But, baby Hercules just strangled them both.
Even as a baby.
Yeah.
Astonishing.
It really sets the stage, doesn't it? Divine interference right from day one.
And there's this other story, this really surprising one, about his infancy and the Milky Way. How does that fit in?
Right. It makes you wonder, how did he get so incredibly strong? So in one version, his mother, Alcmena, leaves him in the woods to protect him from Juno, ironically. Minerva finds him, takes him to Juno, pretends he's just some orphan who needs feeding.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yep. Juno starts nursing him, but then he bites her nipple. She shoves him away. Her milk sprays across the sky, and boom, the Milky Way. And the kicker is, that divine milk actually makes him even stronger from the goddess who hates him.
That's incredible. Talk about irony.
Right. Then Juno just gives him back to Minerva. Wild stuff.
Okay, let's pivot to the other major player here. Hippolyta.
Yeah.
Queen of the Amazons. What was her deal? What was this society like? And why was this girdle so important?
Hippolyta was, Queen of the Amazons, a whole nation of warrior women. They were famous for archery, riding, fighting. Completely unmatched, really.
So a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. Fiercely independent, their own laws. They were respected and, frankly, feared across the ancient world. Their whole existence was kind of a radical challenge in a world run by men.
And this belt, or girdle, it wasn't just clothing.
Oh, much more than that. It was her most prized thing. A magnificent girdle, a sacred belt, gifted to her by Ares himself, the god of war, because he admired her skill.
There's gift. Okay, that's serious.
Yeah. And it's called a zoster in Greek, which is important. That's specifically a man's war belt, not the usual woman's belt, the zonade. So it was this powerful symbol of her authority, her military power, the whole essence of her being queen of the Amazons. Huge symbolic weight. Maybe even magical.
Representing her nation's independence. Got it. But it seems like her story gets messy. Different versions, especially involving Theseus. How do we make sense of that?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
While we're zeroing in on the Hercules story today, it's worth remembering these myths aren't set in stone. You get different tellings. Some say Theseus kidnapped her. Others say Hercules did it and gave her to Theseus.
Or she fell in love and left willingly.
Exactly. And even how she died. Killed by Athenians in a war. Killed by Theseus, accidentally by another Amazon. Or maybe she was already dead before Theseus married Phaedra. Plus, some writers say the Amazon involved wasn't even Hippolyta, but her sister Antiope, Melanippe, Glauce,
So it's complicated.
Very. It just shows how these myths were living traditions, changing depending on who was telling them and where. Different versions highlight different things.
Okay, so back to Hercules and this specific labor. He needs the girdle. Why exactly? And how did he plan to get it?
Well, the why is pretty simple, actually. King Eurystheus, the guy giving Hercules all these labors, his daughter, Admeta, wanted the girdle. She just fancied it.
She just wanted it, like an accessory.
Pretty much. So Eurystheus commands Hercules, go into the heart of Amazon territory and bring back this super important symbol of their queen's power.
You'd expect Hercules to just charge in, club swinging, did he?
See, that's what's interesting. Hercules could be resourceful, not just strong. He seemed to realize maybe brute force wasn't the smartest play with the Amazons. So he sails there with his buddies, planning to get the girdle peacefully.
Through diplomacy.
Yeah. And Hippolyta, she hears about Hercules, his reputation. Maybe she's a bit curious about this famous hero. She's actually open to his request. She's apparently willing to just give him the girdle as a gift, a sign of respect.
Wow. So it almost worked out peacefully. It's unexpected.
Totally unexpected. Peace was right there. But then, enter the vengeful goddess.
Here it comes. Hera again.
Hera again, his eternal tormentor. She sees Hercules about to succeed easily, maybe even be honored by the Amazons. And she's furious. So she zips down to Themyscira, disguised as just another Amazon warrior.
Oh no, what did she do?
Her goal was simple: wreck everything, turn peace into war. So if you step back and see the big picture, Hera starts whispering among the other Amazons, spreading this poisonous lie.
What lie?
She claims Hercules isn't there to ask for the girdle, he's there to kidnap Hippolyta, to enslave all the Amazon women.
Oh, that's devastating, playing on their fierce independence.
Exactly. It sparks fear, outrage, patriotism. All that respect for Hercules turns instantly into suspicion, then absolute fury.
And that leads straight to fighting.
Straight to it. The Amazons, believing their queen's in danger, their freedom's on the line, they grab their weapons and charge Hercules and his men. That friendly meeting, suddenly it's an all-out battle. Hercules is completely blindsided, forced to defend himself against this incredible army.
And the misunderstanding leads to the ultimate tragedy.
Yeah. In all that chaos, Hercules thinks Hippolyta betrayed him. He has no idea Hera cooked this all up. So, believing Hippolyta ordered the attack, he kills her, takes the girdle from her body.
Oh, God. That's awful.
It's swift, brutal, just heartbreaking, all because of Hera's lie. With Hippolyta dead, the Amazons are in chaos. Hercules and his men fight their way out, grab the girdle, and get out of Themyscira fast, leaving behind devastation and this legacy of, well, misunderstanding driven by divine spite. He got the prize, but the cost was terrible. Tragic.
That victory, like you said, won by a whisper, costing a noble life. It really hits that paradox we started with.
Yeah.
But how does a hero whose wins are sometimes so messy, so manipulated by others, become this lasting icon, not just in Rome, but, well, everywhere?
Well, this labor really stands out, doesn't it? It's not about overpowering some beast. It shows the insidious power of lies, of deception. What happens when gods interfere? Hera's lie did more damage than any monster could, turned potential friends into enemies, forced a hero into a terrible act.
A tainted victory.
Definitely. Stained by injustice, sorrow, a chilling reminder of how easily peace gets shattered by malice. So Hercules goes back to Eurystheus, hands over the girdle. Labor 9, done. But that girdle, once a symbol of female power, is now a trophy, a grim reminder. The myth itself becomes this powerful story about misunderstanding, betrayal, the innocent caught in divine crossfire. It complicates the simple hero story, right? Shows Hercules manipulated, forced into tragedy against someone who meant him no harm initially.
And the Amazons themselves, they become a symbol too.
Oh, absolutely. If you look at the wider context, they stand for female autonomy, strength, in a world totally dominated by men. Hippolyta's girdle, symbolizing her power, is central to a conflict that really makes you question female sovereignty and how far gods, especially male gods, would go to assert control.
It's a different kind of challenge for Hercules, too.
Yeah, it contrasts sharply with him just wrestling monsters. It highlights maybe a flaw in him, his inability sometimes to see past the immediate threat, making him vulnerable to deception.
So zooming back out to Rome,
Yeah.
how did they specifically take Hercules and weave him into their own world, their worship?
Well, the name itself, Hercules, came through the Etruscans they had, Heracles or Hercule, and it became part of everyday language. Romans had this mild oath like Hercule or me Hercule, just casually invoking him.
Like saying good grief or something.
Kind of, yeah. And he had his own purely Roman myths, too, like defeating a local monster named Cacus near Rome. He got linked to the Aventine Hill through his son, Aventinus. And emperors like Mark Antony, even Commodus, saw him as a personal patron god, so he had political weight too.
It's still a bit surprising, though, him being linked to children, marriage, seems far from the club-wielding hero. How did that happen?
Right. So the crucial question is, how did his influence spread beyond just fighting? He ended up getting worshipped in various ways, including as a protector of children, of childbirth, partly because of those stories about him being this incredibly strong baby.
Ah, strangling snakes in the cradle.
Exactly, and also because he had tons of kids in various myths. Plus, Roman brides wore this special belt tied with a knot of Hercules. The idea was it was really hard to untie.
Symbolizing a strong marriage bond.
That's the idea not even Hercules would struggle with. It's like a good omen, right?
Yeah, definitely a strong symbol. Now, what about women worshiping him? The sources seem a bit mixed on that.
Yeah, this is debated by scholars. Generally, women's religious lives in Rome were focused on, female concerns or cults needing chastity. Some think women were totally barred from Hercules cults. Others say maybe it was just the Era Maxima, this really old, important altar to him in Rome that excluded them.
Okay.
There's this text from Macrobius quoting an older scholar, Varro. He says a woman couldn't give Hercules water on a certain feast day for a goddess because it was taboo for a man to taste something prepared for her. And because of that, Hercules supposedly banned women from his own rites, his sacrum.
Huh.
And another writer, Aulus Gellius, noted Roman women didn't swear oaths by Hercules and didn't sacrifice to him. So it's murky, but suggests limitations.
Okay, and his influence went even further. Military, other cultures.
Oh, yeah. What's really fascinating is the Germanic connection. Tacitus, the Roman historian, wrote that Germanic tribes felt a special connection to Hercules. He even suggested Hercules had visited them, and they sang songs about him before going into battle.
Seriously? Hercules in ancient Germany?
Well, some think Tacitus was just using Interpretatio Romana, basically, seeing the Germanic thunder god, probably Hunras, and saying, oh, that's like our Hercules, comparing gods.
Okay, that makes more sense.
But you do see these Hercules Club amulets popping up across the Roman Empire 2nd, 3rd centuries, and later, similar Donars clubs spread among Germanic peoples before Thor's hammer pendants took over as Christianity spread. So there's a tangible link in these symbols of power.
Yeah, and he keeps going. Into medieval times, the Renaissance.
Absolutely. Once the empire became Christian, myths like Hercules got reread as allegory. Like in the 4th century, this grammarian Servius said Hercules coming back from the underworld symbolized overcoming earthly temptation.
Okay, giving it a moral spin.
Right. Some early Christians even linked him to Samson from the Bible, strong guys, tough lives. In the Middle Ages, he was often seen as a role model for knights. Brave, wise, fighting monsters that represented sin or moral challenges. Then the Renaissance hits, printing press arrives, boom. Renewed interest in all the Greek stuff. Mythographers like Natale Conti collected his stories, but often emphasized his wisdom, his great soul, maybe even more than just the muscles.
So his image evolved.
Constantly. You even had kings, like Henry I of France, being praised as the Gallic Hercules, the Hercule Gaulois, using his image for royal propaganda.
And what's this about a road of Hercules?
Yeah, that's a route through southern France, linked to his 10th labor fetching the cattle of Geryon from Spain. What's really neat is that Hannibal, the Carthaginian general, supposedly took the same path marching towards Italy centuries later. Yeah. And ancient writers loved comparing Hannibal to Hercules. Hannibal even leaned into it. Visited a shrine of Hercules, tried to make his crossing of the Alps seem like one of Hercules' labors, like breaking through cliffs, deliberately linking himself to the legend.
Wow, using the myth for his own PR.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so beyond myths, worship, history, he's just everywhere in art and culture, isn't he?
He really is. And the key thing is he's instantly recognizable. You see the lion skin, the big gnarly club. You know it's Hercules, usually depicted with a tan, from all his outdoor work.
Right, the classic look.
And that look resonates even today. Modern artists riff on him. Think of the famous Farnese Hercules statue. Artists like Jeff Koons, Matthew Derbyshire have used its form, often in white materials. Then you have someone like Robert Mapplethorpe, whose photography, especially with black models, engaged with classical physique but offered a very different perspective, maybe resisting some traditional interpretations.
Interesting. And coins, ships.
Oh, yeah. He was on Roman coins' super early symbol of power, stability, and ships. Tons of warships named Hercules, 6 in the British Royal Navy, 19 in the French Navy, loads more.
Even planes.
Yep. The Lockheed C-130 Hercules transport plane, still used today. And Operation Hercules was the German code name for their planned WWII invasion of Malta, shows that association with immense strength and tough jobs.
Wow.
Plus, geographical names, the Pillars of Hercules at Gibraltar, rock formations like the Cudgel of Hercules. He's even a supporter on the royal coat of arms of Greece.
He's literally holding up coats of arms. And of course, movies. Can't forget the movies.
Definitely not. There was that whole wave of Italian sword and sandal Hercules movies in the late 50s, early 60s. Steve Reeves was the big star, kicked off a whole genre.
Oh, yeah, I think I've seen clips. Very dramatic.
Yeah. And since then, countless American movies, cartoons, TV shows like Hercules, the legendary journeys.
That was huge for a while.
Right. Plus comics, video games. His cultural footprint is just immense. It keeps adapting, keeps enduring.
So bringing you back to that ninth labor, the quest for Hippolyta's girdle really does feel like one of his most tragic moments. A stark reminder of how divine jealousy, human misunderstanding, how devastating that can be. It highlights the brutal cost of lies, the sorrow that can come even when a hero technically succeeds.
Exactly.
And this whole deep dive, it shows us Hercules, the Roman version of Hercules, wasn't just muscles, he was complex. His story echoes through time, divine meddling, shifting ideas about gender and power, and just this incredible cultural impact from ancient coins to, well, Disney movies and blockbuster films.
That specific myth, the Girdle one, really captures that paradox we started with, doesn't it? Immense physical power, undone by a whisper. Not a monster he could fight, but a lie. It's a potent reminder that not all battles are won with strength. Some are lost to deception.
So here's a final thought to leave everyone with. Hercules' life was so tangled up with the gods, right? Juno hating him from birth, Hera wrecking the Amazon mission, but then the gods also make him immortal in the end. What does his whole story suggest about that tension in classical myths between destiny, fate, free will, and just how much the gods pull the strings?
That's a great question to chew on. We really encourage you to think about that, how much divine will seemed to shape heroes' lives back then, and maybe how much we feel forces beyond our control might shape our own paths today.